episode 107 this week, the Casino Royale. This was a horrible episode. Terrible. The absolute dirt worst. It was mind-numbingly bad. Terrible. So the premise is, the Enterprise is going to Theta 8 because the Klingons told them there was something in orbit that they'd want to see, but they didn't specify what it was or anything. They just said, go take a look. So the Enterprise heads over there. On the way, Captain Picard's telling Riker about some mathematical theory that he said is 800 years old that no one had solved. There is no real rhyme or reason for that whole scene. Just filler. They get to the planet and they beam aboard a piece of a NASA shuttle. And they're like, that's weird, a NASA shuttle. How did a NASA ship get all the way to Theta 8? So Picard lets Riker take Data and Worf down to the planet to investigate. There was like this little window of space that had breathable atmosphere. The rest of the planet had like ammonia tornadoes, Geordi LaForge described it. When Riker gets down there, they're in just like a terrible CGI looking room, just a slot of just darkness behind them. They never explained what that was or how it got there or anything. And then all of a sudden ahead of them's a revolving door. So they go through the revolving door and they're in like a 1940s Las Vegas casino. And they're amused. They're just kind of amused. They go to the front desk. The guy tells them that they've been expected. Worf's trying to find out what planet they're on, and the guy just kind of looks at them weird, and he's telling them they're on Earth. The Enterprise gets cut off communication-wise once they've entered the casino, so Picard's worried, but then Troy's like, Riker's fine, he's amused by it all, and Picard's like, okay. And then, as things go on in the casino, Riker's like, well, okay, let's get out of here. But they can't get out. The revolving door just spits them right back into the casino every time they try it. They can't find another way out. So now Riker's mildly concerned. In no real danger, but he's mildly concerned. They eventually go up to the room they were given, and they find a body of a human NASA pilot, and he's been dead for hundreds of years. They look at his diary, and he says that the aliens had recreated out of a book he was reading, which was a terrible book, and he was living the nightmare. They just kept repeating the story of the book. No word on who the aliens were, how they recreated it, anything like that. But Riker and his team go back down to the casino. They contacted Picard finally because Picard had Geordi LaForge and Wes Crusher working on a way to break through the communication block. They tell Picard the book. So Picard listens to it on audio. And Deanna Troy's like, well, this is a terrible book. And Picard's like, yeah, it is. And she walks away. And then Picard's like, well, you got to finish the book. That's how you get out of the place, probably. And Riker's like, oh, okay. And so they win the asking price of the motel casino. Data rigs the game, wins all the money, and then they give the rest of it to the patrons of the casino. They're just giving the rest of it away, and then they can walk out the door, and they're fine. Didn't make any sense at all. There was no explanation as to who the aliens were, why they did this, how they did this, what happened after Riker's team left. Nothing ever got explained. It could have been a somewhat interesting story if they followed up on it or gave more depth, but nope, it was mostly funny ha-ha stuff with the interactions at the casino. It was not a good episode. Interesting facts in it. It was Sam Anderson, who was the actor that played the principal on Growing Pains as the clerk at the motel desk, who also couldn't find that book because it didn't exist. It was a fictional book. Well, the book didn't even actually exist. Also, the theory that Picard was explaining to Riker earlier, they said it hadn't been solved yet, and it had been 800 years, but before Star Trek The Next Generation left the air, they had solved the thing. So the theory was actually solved just a few short years after that episode. So that was a moot point then. But that was pretty much episode 107.